And welcome back to another episode of Crunch Time. I'm Noah Elkin.
I'm Austin Man. As usual, we have a variety of topics from the amazing world of sports. So Noah, hit me with the first one.
All right, Austin. Well, just shortly after we recorded our Crunch Time last week, the Vikings offensive coordinator was actually fired. It was after a pretty poor performance and a loss. He was replaced by intern offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski, who's was the former QB coach for the Vikings. That switch actually had a lot of impact. This week, the Vikings put up 41 points, which is the most they've put up all season. And in the first quarter alone, they went over 200 yards. So it just seems like that was a move that needed to happen. It happened at a good time. Everything seems to be flowing now for the Vikings.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I remember everyone was talking about DeFilippo for his work with Carson Wentz last year, so everyone was thinking he's going to be a good offensive coordinator. But I think he just didn't have a good understanding of like his personnel, and I think the Vikings are a completely different team than the Eagles. So I think he was trying to replicate that system rather than cater to like the Vikings' strengths. Like you have two fast wide receivers, like they're deep threats, whereas the Eagles, they were more like medium to short passes just because they had more possession guys. And I don't know, I just think that the change and understanding of personnel really did wonders for the Vikings. So I hope they turn around because I thought they were like easily going to be a playoff team this year. I didn't expect them to just be fighting this much for a playoff spot.
Yeah, especially considering like how far they went in the playoffs last year. I think in John DeFilippo's defense, like they kind of struggled in the run game all year. Like last year, even though Dalvin Cook was out, Latavius Murray pretty much was like the go-to guy for most of the year, so there was consistency. Like this year, I feel like, pretty much all the running backs have been at least injured a little bit or for a short period of time. So it's been a little inconsistent there. But like last week, Dalvin Cook looked real good. He looked like his old self. So I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Vikings just realized that I think John DeFilippo and the Mike Zimmer just had a different idea about how the offense should go, and clearly, like the head coach has the final say over whether to fire him. And I think at the end of the day, you just do what's best for your team. So, I mean, I hope DeFilippo finds another job just because I think he's a good offensive mind, but. I just think things weren't clicking for him in Minnesota, so I think just maybe the change of scene would have been best for him too.
Yeah, I think a lot of the players in Vikings were happy to see this change take place. I have a quote from Kyle Rudolph I'll read real quick. He has been here the longest out of anyone on offense. He's a guy that has worked under many different offensive coordinators. He saw what they did well, maybe what they did not do as well, and what he would do once it was his turn. I think you saw that throughout the week. With little changes. He didn't come in and overhaul everything. So once again, that's a quote by Kyle Rudolph, the tight end, obviously for the Vikings. So it looks like the culture is still there. Everything's still moving efficiently for the Vikings.
Yeah, I just think they wanted a change of like offense just because you have a different quarterback who's more talented than Case Keenum was last year. Nothing against him, but Kirk Cousins is the top 10 quarterback in this league.
He's been real inconsistent this year. Like,
but I mean,
on a good day, he's top 10, sure.
But you can probably attest to that with the offensive coordinator. Just him and DeFilippo just not getting along. I think with Kirk Cousins, he just needs an offensive coordinator who understands his strengths and work around his weaknesses. Just because Kirk Cousins is not like an accurate deep ball passer, but thing is though he's good, accurate, and precise in the short to mid game. So I just think that you just got to figure out how to properly use all the weapons. And I think obviously just having a new quarterback might have just helped just causes struggles, but I think the Vikings are going to turn it around, and I hope they make the playoffs because I enjoy watching them.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Kirk Cousins is best when he has a lot of time in the pocket. If their offense can work in a way where he can maybe roll out or just have extended time and room to move around in the pocket, that's when he's best, and he can find open receivers downfield.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Carson Wentz, once again, looks like he might be sitting out the rest of the year. It was reported that he had a back stress fracture. So once again, Nick Foles is going to run the show. This year it's a little different though. Eagles
Struggling a bit.
Yeah, I mean, this time last year they were the number one seed. Right now they're 7-7. They're tied in their division with the Redskins, and only one game back from the Cowboys, who got shut out this week after winning 5 of their last games. So I don't know. This will be interesting to see what Nick Foles can do on maybe a slightly weaker Eagles team this year.
Yeah, I think part of the struggles with the Eagles this year is they haven't had that consistent run game. Like last year, they had LeGarrette Blount. I mean, he wasn't like your every down back, but in the red zone, he was kind of like your safety net, so he was gonna give you those points. But now they get like their offense is more reliant on their passing game, just because Wentz I think is a generational talent, but I think just having to put that much pressure on him, and the fact that their offensive line's kind of shoddy, just didn't help. Like I'm kind of amazed that they're 7-7. Like honestly, they should have a worse record just because I've seen them play and they just don't look like the Eagles of last year. I just think that they need to shore up their offensive line more. But obviously, it just sucks to see Carson Wentz go down again just because, he had to deal with that torn ACL in the midst of like the Eagles' best season ever. And he was a big part of the reason why they got that number one seed. So you just hate to see a good player go down. But I hope nothing but the best for him. And I hope the Eagles do make the playoffs again just because, I don't know. There's something about the Eagles I like.
Yeah, well, that NFC East race is heating up. It'll be a fun one to monitor in these next coming weeks.
Like, honestly, if someone asked me who would you rather have in the playoffs, the Cowboys or Eagles, 100% the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Cowboys have been pretty inconsistent. Like, when they're on, they're on. They certainly have a lot of offensive weapons, and, at times, they beat the Saints that one week. And then, this week they got shut out. So I feel like the inconsistency is just the issue.
Yeah, and I think that might haunt them if they do make the playoffs just because, you don't know if they're going to be able to step it up when it comes to those big moments. But there's still a lot of season to be played out, and it'll be interesting to see how this playoff picture unfolds.
Yeah, and don't forget about the Redskins because they're actually tied with the Eagles despite having lost their number 1 quarterback, their number 2 quarterback, and the number 3 quarterback.
Two of them to broken legs.
Right, but they're still in it. You can't count them out quite yet.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the NBA. So the Suns owner Robert Sarver actually threatened to move his Suns to either Seattle or Las Vegas this week. He did so kind of as a leverage move. He's trying to get a renovation plan that's going to cost $230 million approved by the city. So I think he was kind of pulling a power move here and going, hey, Phoenix, like, you better give me this money or else we're gone.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a leverage move just because, he's been asking for this renovation for a while, and I think the city of Phoenix has just been dragging it under the rug, and he just wants an answer. And I can't really blame him for that. And, sometimes you have to go through drastic measures to get that answer. But, he already said he wants to stay in Phoenix, and I think he does want to stay in Phoenix. I just think he wants just this whole situation to be done with and, know that his team is going to be playing in a better arena just because, having that arena will also bring more money to the city of Phoenix just because, you can sell more. You can up your prices more just because you have a newly renovated arena, and also just creates more business around the town too. So I just think that having that renovation would benefit the city of Phoenix. So I don't really understand why they've been kind of just putting it under the rug.
I mean, I'm sure in a lot of ways it would help the city of Phoenix, but at the same time, $230 million is nothing to scoff over. That's still a pretty big number. I know most arenas cost at least that much, but at the end of the day, that's still a lot of money to be asking for. So I don't know. I guess I can understand why it's moving at a slow pace, but at the same time, give the man an answer,
Yeah, honestly, he just wants what's best for his team, and the team is what makes the people happy, and so at the end of the day, he's just trying to improve the fans' experience more so going in the game. So I would be all for it, but that's just my opinion, and clearly there's probably more financial reasons why they can't do it yet, but at the end of the day, I just think they should just give him an answer. Tell him, no, we're not going to give it to you, or yes. Just don't keep playing it along, just acting eventually it'll happen when maybe it's not.
An interesting thing, ever since Robert Sarver made that comment, The Phoenix Suns have actually won 3 straight, which is kind of interesting just because they haven't done that in like over 600 days or something like that. They're the 15th dead last in the West. Only team in the West that's not competing for a playoff spot this year. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see how long this little winning streak can
Maybe
last.
he just wants the renovation because it will signal the turnaround of the team. Maybe there's some metaphor to it, but I don't know.
It remains to be seen.
It remains to be seen. Only the city of Phoenix can answer that.
All right. Well, speaking of Phoenix and the Suns, actually, there was a kind of some drama this week regarding a 3-team trade that almost went through but ended up not quite going through. So. Trevor Ariza was going to be traded to the Wizards. Austin Rivers and Dylan Brooks and Wayne Selden to the Suns, and Kelly Oubre to the Grizzlies. The deal fell through because Dylan Brooks had been confused with Marshawn Brooks from the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies never actually had any intention of trading Dylan Brooks, while the Suns never really had any intention of trading for Marshawn Brooks. So the Grizzlies ended up completely pulling out of the deal. Trevor Ariza still got dealt to the Wizards, and the Suns got Austin Rivers and Kelly Oubre for it.
Yeah, honestly, that's just I just don't understand. Like, this is your job. Like, you just should know who you're trading for. You can't just go in blindly. I think it's just not very professional from the Suns management standpoint, just because they're the ones trying to orchestrate this trade. And they were trying to get rid of Trevor Ariza, and so I just think they should have done a better job in communicating with the other GMs. And better terms, though, I think getting Kelly Oubre, even though he's on an expiring contract, was a nice pull for them. And I think you can convince him to stay just based on the fact that he can have a big role on the team, and he could be a potential building block for the Suns with Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. Like, that's pretty nice young core right there.
Yeah, but I don't know. With Kelly Oubre, I feel like he's a fairly complete player right now, but he needs to add a 3-point shot.
Yeah.
And without that 3-point shot, I don't think he'll ever quite be starter material.
Yeah. Plus, I think with the fact that he was just sitting behind Otto Porter, he just didn't have much opportunity. So I think getting more opportunities to play will show what kind of player he is, and maybe he'll play himself into a bigger contract this offseason.
Yeah, and Otto Porter Jr., it'll be interesting to see what the rotation looks like with Trevor Ariza on the Wizards now, because both Trevor Ariza and Otto Porter Jr. are starter quality small forwards. I would probably go with Otto Porter Jr. ahead of Trevor Ariza, but it'll be fun to see if either of them gets put at like the power forward spot or how much time they spend on the floor together.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the Wizards will be most efficient when John Wall, Bradley Beal, Otto Porter, and Trevor Ariza are all on the court together. I think that's a really good small ball lineup you have there, and I think you have like 3 guys on there who are proven 3-point shooters on there.
Well, and then you can add Markieff Morris, as like a small ball center, and he can shoot the 3
Yeah,
too.
you have 5 guys on the floor who can space it first of all and can hit a 3 when you need it. And I think, and honestly, they're all like reasonably good defenders. Like Trevor Ariza and John Wall especially are good defenders. So I think that the Wizards improved their playoff chances of making the playoffs by making this trade, and I think the Suns benefited by getting a talented young player who just hasn't quite figured it out yet.
Yeah, agreed. The Wizards started the year real poor. I don't know off the top of my head how many games they lost in a row to start the season, but it was a significant amount. They've quietly been kind of like 500 or so since then. So you wonder with this trade, or you think maybe they'll have a shot to get back into playoff contention, at least for a lower seed in the East.
Yeah, I think so. I just think you have a lot of talent there that easily you just look at the roster and should be a playoff team.
Yeah, as long as the bench production is there.
Yeah, I think the problem with the Wizards is just they're too top heavy and they haven't had that consistent bench presence yet, except maybe Markieff Morris. But I just think Trevor Ariza, if he doesn't start, will definitely bring a spark plug mentality to the bench, and I think he's a guy that can give you 15 points a game, no problem, solid defense, as you saw with him with the Rockets last season.
Right, just your typical 3-and-D player that nearly every team in the NBA needs.
Yeah, it just goes a long way having a good guy who can defend basically almost every position, at least 4 positions, and still give you quality shooting on the other end. So I think at the end of the day, the Wizards made a good trade, and I think even though losing Kelly Oubre kind of hurts. I just think for the current team, Trevor Reeves was a better fit.
Yeah, I mean, losing Kelly Oubre hurts, I suppose, but I don't think it hurts when you factor in that you're getting Ariza. You know, I
Yeah.
think if anything, that's a better player right there. All right. How about the Pacers, Austin? The Pacers actually hired the first ever female assistant general manager, Kelly Kroskoff. She serves as the top executive for Indiana's WNBA basketball team, the Fever, for a solid 19 years. I have a quote for her as well. She says, "My past experience has shown me that building winning teams and elite level culture is not based on gender. It is based on people and processes. I'm excited to join the Pacers as we continue building the best NBA franchise in the business."
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy because, I think obviously the Pacers, I think, made a home run hire here just because she has the credentials, and maybe the fact that she's a woman might have, deterred a lot of franchises. But I think at the end of the day, you should always just hire people who have a good basketball mind and have the credentials to back it up. And I think she has more than
She certainly does.
She has more than enough credibility. And I think honestly, I'm surprised that we haven't had. It took this long to get a first female assistant GM, and I think maybe getting a female GM is not too far along, and we might get our first female head coach in Becky Hammond from the Spurs.
Right. I was actually just going to bring her up. I think it's really cool the direction that the NBA is going in. They're kind of ahead of the pace in terms of other major league or major sports leagues, like the NFL, and the MLB doesn't really have that
the
equivalent.
MLB do have two female executives. I think the Yankees and the Angels do. But, honestly, I think if anything, the NBA is one of those more progressive leagues. Just think about how, their players are really more personalities.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think they have really big voice, and I just think the NBA is one of those leagues that people globally watch and just tune into. So I think they realize their power in the world, and so they can spark change. And I'm glad they made this hire, just because at the end of the day, gender shouldn't affect who, your position, the reason why you shouldn't get a job is because you're a girl. I just think that if you have the credentials and you've proven that you know how to build a winning team, why not hire a woman?
Yeah, exactly. And furthermore, it's interesting to see the specific locations that these hires are taking place, like San Antonio and Indiana.
Midwest, Texas,
Yeah, generally, considered to be more conservative areas. So this is really pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, I think it's just respect to the management and owners of the team just for looking past the politics of their states. And I just think that Indiana made a good hire, and I think this will benefit them in the long run. And honestly, Indiana's trending up there on a 7-game winning streak. So I think the Pacers are definitely a team to watch, and I think making this hire will help them build a better team next year.
Yeah, most definitely. All right. Well, how about the Lakers, Austin? LeBron James and Lonzo Ball both put up a triple-double this week against the Hornets. Only the 6th time in NBA history that teammates have both posted triple-doubles in the same game. LeBron finished with 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists. Lonzo had 16 points and 10 rebounds and assists. So, it goes without saying, great game for both of them. Austin, are you surprised about the Lakers? Because for me, when I was talking to people after the LeBron trade and talking about where I thought the Lakers would end up in the playoffs, I was thinking 7, 8 seed or so. Obviously, I think LeBron will always have a good chance to get into the playoffs, but I don't know. I didn't think in the Western Conference the supporting cast would be up for a 4 seed, which I believe is where they are now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised too, just because the Lakers have a lot of young talent, but they're unproven. So I wasn't sure that they would be able to put it together in the first season with LeBron there. I think they had enough talent to make playoffs as a lower seed. But I think LeBron really challenged them, gave them that push they needed, and I think he's helped them realize their potential, especially with Lonzo.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference that just 1 year makes.
Yeah, because literally LeBron's Lonzo is a good player. He's talented, he has elite playmaking skills, and he just needs that confidence and that push and that just get away from that shadow of LeVar and just let him be his own person, his own player. And I think LeBron definitely helped Lonzo realize that, and I think it's doing wonders now for them because imagine if they figure out their pick and roll game with like LeBron and Lonzo, like that could be
Oh, that'd be dirty.
that would be a dirty. Oh, I can't even imagine just like all the like highlight reel lobs and
Right.
alley-oops you would get.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because the Lakers generally don't set up for like a half court offense. They have one of the fastest tempos in the league right now. They like to push the floor. But yeah, like I think if they do end up slowing it down slightly in the coming years, that would be real fun to watch, that pick and roll game.
Yeah, and honestly, I think LeBron's comments like over the past few weeks calling out Lonzo publicly, I just think he's really just telling Lonzo like, you have this talent to be the leader of the team, and LeBron can't keep this up forever. So I think he's just grooming him for that primary playmaking role that would be so crucial when he's towards the end of his contract.
Right, like when LeBron doesn't have the energy or the body to have the ball in his hands all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what better distributor are you going to be able to find than Lonzo Ball in a couple years with a couple more years of experience under his belt?
Exactly. I think it's just setting themselves up for success in the future, and I definitely think that LeBron should challenge more of the younger players like Kuzma, Brandon Ingram especially. I think they have all the pieces to be elite players in this league. I just think they need that push and motivation to like put it all together and show their full potential.
Yeah, I think their front office did a spectacular job this year. Like, even if you don't talk about the LeBron signing, some of the veterans that they brought in, like Rajon Rondo, Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee, early this year they brought in Tyson Chandler, who's made a big difference, especially defensively.
Yeah.
I think it helps in terms of short-term wins, but even more than that, it's about coaching the young talent that they have and priming them for future success.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think they have a nice balance of young talent and like established veterans, and I think they are establishing a culture in Los Angeles that has been lost since Kobe went down with that first Achilles injury a few years ago. So I'm glad the Lakers are trending back upwards after being in the cellar of the league for so long.
Yeah. So okay, let me ask you this: what seed do you think they're gonna end up with?
I'd say roughly. At their highest, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with a third seed, but I think if they hit a mid-season slump or towards the end of the season they start to falter, I think they'll finish 7th seed. But I'd say if I had to put a guess, I'd say 4th or 5th seed.
Okay, I'm near there. I was gonna say 5 or 6 probably, but yeah, it'll be real fun to watch.
Yeah, and the NBA season's still young, and it's only getting better. So.
Right, second half is always better than the first.
Oh, big time.
All right, well, that's all the time we have this week. I want to thank you all for tuning in to Crunch Time. We actually will not be back for a couple weeks as we are about to leave for winter break, but we'll be back mid-January or so, and we'll be right back at it.
Happy holidays, guys. Have a good one. Stay warm.